Call to order the Shelton City Council meeting for August 7th, 2018. Welcome everybody. Rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First on the agenda tonight is swearing in of several new Shelton police officers. Chief Moody.
Stand right up there, front and center. So, it's a great day. So, not only do I get to swear in one, the mayor gets to swear in 3 new Shelton police officers. They're all lateral police officers that came to us from other agencies. They all took a different route to get to Shelton, but they got here. Michael DeRoche spent some time as an officer in one of the bigger cities down in the greater Seattle area, was here at Skokomish Reservation for a while as an officer, and he started this week with us. Matt Gray, some of you may say he's familiar. He's used to wearing tan uniform. Spent 12 years with the Mason County Sheriff's Office, saw the error in his ways, and decided to come over to the Shelton Police Department. And Jordan Marine also took a different route. He worked for a tribal agency, then went to work in New Mexico and decided the tumbleweeds were a bit much for him, and he was coming back to the Northwest, and we're lucky to have him. He's been a provisional officer with us for the last several months. Provisional means they work for an hourly pay with no benefits. But with the retirements and things that have come up, we've had these opportunities to hire these wonderful folks. And now we have some stability going on at the police department, some new change. We just finished a sergeant's exam. We'll have 3 new supervisors coming on board. So there's a lot of really fun things happening at the police department and good folks coming on board. So Mayor, if you'd like to, I'd like you to come up and swear them in. And if you want to take pictures, folks, family, friends, you're welcome to come up here and stand up here and take pictures.
And this is one of the elected officials' honors to do this tonight. Duties as assigned, I'm glad to do. So, gentlemen, if you raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear.
I, Matt Gray, do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Washington.
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
And abide by the Code of Ethics of the Shelton Police Department.
and abide by the Code of Ethics of the Shelton Police Department,
And that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of police officer for the city of Shelton.
discharge the duties of police officer for the City of Shelton.
Thank you very much.
Ready for your photo op, Sarah?
Yep.
All right. Okay, we got the uniforms and the whole thing. Here we go. Congratulations. 30 seconds of time here. I'm going to let Mike Fiola say a couple words real quick. Okay.
Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for listening. So, the chief had me talk a little bit about some of the stuff our officers do on a daily basis. I was just up at a block watch party talking about how the chief and I have it really easy. We get to sit in an air-conditioned office, push paper, et cetera, but it's the men and women that do the job every day in and out that give us the credit that we do for this great police department. So just prior to us going to this block watch party, our officers were dispatched to the Mountain View area for a welfare check. Estranged spouse called and said, hey, I'm worried about her. Think she might be suicidal. So our officers found her, and she was actually in the act of hanging herself. She was standing on a chair with a rope around her neck and a rope across a high beam. Our officers, just recently, we just had our crisis intervention training and our de-escalation training. Tried conversing with her, trying to talk to her. Ultimately, she took the step forward and began to hang. Our officer ran over there, picked her up, and held her for about 3 minutes until his backup could get there and could cut the rope and cut the rope from her throat. So she's alive and well. and we can credit that life-saving to our officers. So that's just, this is the stuff they do day in and day out, and I just don't get the opportunity to share with the commission and the mayor those stories, but I just want to make sure you know that you've got wonderful officers working for you in a community that supports you guys 100%. So thank you very much.
What Mike didn't say is one of those officers was Mr. DeRose on his third day. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much.
May I say something?
You may, counsel.
Okay, every time that I see the swearing in of the police officers, which has been several times since I've had sat on the council commissioner seat and now the council seat, I get goosebumps. We live at the end of the street and I hear the sirens and the cars speeding out all the time, knowing that they're going to help somebody save their life. And so I get kind of emotional when I think these men are out there, and they have families. They're out putting their life on the line for other people. And just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, council member. I forgot to change our agenda as the first thing, so with the sympathy of the council, I'd like to move action item about the surplus vehicles up to immediately, so Chief Moody can get on his way. Is there any objection to that?
Nope.
All right, Chief Moody, you're up, please.
Thank you. I have another neighborhood watch party that they've invited us to, and I told them I would get there as soon as I could after we got this taken care of. I appreciate you moving this up. This is just a council update and action item. We discussed surplusing 2 vehicles that essentially have little or no value to the police department or the city at this point. I would ask that the council go ahead and move forward with the surplus on that. And any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any public comment?
No public.
Okay.
Just a quick question. So I saw the no value, no value. Well, there's got to be a little bit of value in those.
There's a certain, well, it's a certain dollar level amount. Usually we say if it's $500 or less. And a lot of these cars, by the time they get to this point, I mean, one of them is a 2006 Crown Victoria with a few 100,000 miles on it. And as it's been rode hard as a police car, its value is pretty limited.
Just thought I'd ask.
In fact, one of them's a parts car that we've been stripping parts off of to repair the other cars out here.
Yeah, there's a little value in that. That's all right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Moody? Okay, any motion?
Do we need to read it?
Yeah, read. Oh, wait.
Comments on an action item? Public
Yes.
comment? Oh,
He
oh,
asked if there
oh,
was any.
there was nothing. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh,
Need a
ask for
resolution.
resolution 1120-0418.
Resolution number 1120-0418, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, declaring city vehicles surplus to the needs of the city and disposing of such vehicles for the common benefit.
Thank you, Donna. Now,
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1120-0418, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, declaring city vehicles surplus to the needs of the city.
Second.
okay, there's a motion to accept resolution number 1120-0418. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution accepted. Thank you, Chief.
Bye, Chief.
Have fun.
Have fun. Okay, next on our list, Dwayne Wilson from the Kiwanis Town Christmas Town Kiwanis Club is here to give a report, and thank you, Dwayne, for waiting.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Christmas Town Kiwanis does Bluegrass in the Forest every year. It started as a fundraiser to build a restroom at Callanan Park, and it took us 3 years to get that done, but we got it done, and then now we raise funds for community projects. And I've given you all a program, and as you go through it, you can just look through it. It talks about the bands, talks about the history, what I just mentioned. Shows some of the things we do, some of the events we do, band scrambles and mandolin tasting. I guess basically that's what we do. And we bring in folks, probably we get more from Oregon than we get from Mason, believe it or not. And we're charged when we get funds from the hotel motel tax. We're charged with bringing people to Mason County, and that's what we do. So as you go through, it talks a little bit about Christmastown, Kiwanis, things we do, and then the last two pages are things to do in Mason County. And this was Rachel Hansen's idea. She did this program for us, and the last 2 pages. So all these visitors we bring in, this is things you can do in Mason County besides watch bluegrass. And we do. If you look at the report, did we get those out? Yep. Okay. We requested $7,000. We turned in receipts for $7,900, and then there was one more that was late arriving, another $900. So it's close to $8,800 that we put in marketing, strictly marketing. And we do that in a lot of ways. The Journal here, but in a lot of marketing, a lot of now Facebook texts, those kind of things. But then the Tacoma News Tribune, Bremerton Sun, Longview Daily News, Aberdeen Daily World, those are all places we put ads, and we draw people from all of those. If you look through the report, we estimated we brought in about almost 2,100 folks total. The hotel motel tax folks want to know how many people come total, how many come from more than 50 miles, how many are local, and that's all listed in here. So we had 550 that came from 50 miles or more. We had, paid lodging nights. We had 139 at, these are individual rooms at the Shelton Inn, 50 at the Super 8, 2 at the Shelton City Center. Little Creek Casino had 21. Sunrise Motel Hoodsport had 2. The Bend and Union, the Hilton Garden Inn and Ole, which, we're not charged with making them money, but there were no rooms here. And it's not just us, the racetrack has a little to do with that also, but there's no rooms on that weekend in Shelton and in the area. And so then as you look on, we track how many people, where they come from. You'll see all those zip codes, and we ask these folks for this as they come in, plus I get them off of PayPal, plus we get them when we register our campers. And we had 110, Mark, something like that. 110 campers with 2 to 3 people in each camp staying up at the high school. And they're almost all of them are from out of town. We get a few from Olympia, Shelton, but not many. Most of them are from out of town. And they stay up there 2 nights, Friday, Saturday, play music. You go up there 4 in the morning, they're jamming out there, so it's a lot of fun. So that'll give you the information, how many came from Oregon, and we had them come from Vancouver, BC, San Francisco, California, Idaho, Boulder, Colorado, Sacramento, Lockwood, Montana, and a couple from Hawaii. So that's just a quick overview. Mark told me to keep it short, so I'm keeping it short. So any questions? If you like good acoustic music, it's a great event. I was talking to Abe Gardner out here. There's a violin player on the second page there. She was supposed to be here 2 years ago. She ended up touring with the Rod Stewart Band for 2 years. She couldn't come to Shelton. So that's the quality of musicians that we're bringing, and it's not just me and my cousins up there. It's good players. So, any questions?
Any questions for Dwayne? It's a great event, Dwayne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do for this community, Dwayne, for the, 30 or 40 years, right?
At least. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Abe Gardner talking about a letter of support from the city of Shelton. Hi.
Good evening. My name's Abe Gardner. I work for Mason County Public Health. I'm here asking for not just a signature on a piece of paper, but support and participation in a program where we have the opportunity to be a part of here in Mason County. To give you a quick little backstory, we were approached by the Washington State Department of Health back in early 2017 with some funding to do some overdose outreach, prevention, education. And we gladly accepted at the health department. That's what I was hired on initially. We thought that was just going to be a few-month project. We thought the money was only for a short duration of time. So we applied for some federal funding. And I actually was in front of, we got a letter of support from the city at that point in time. to request that funding from the Department of Justice, which we received. And so a few months after that, we found out that the state funding continued. So we have that funding, but we were also awarded the Department of Justice funding for a different program, and that's why I'm here today. That program is a little bit different than the state-funded program. State-funded program is more specific on overdose and the response to overdose. The project I'm here about is called the Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Program, and the Department of Justice is allowing us to kind of tailor our program to our community's needs. And we thought it'd be best to look at our treatment and recovery system as a whole, and asking folks from different stakeholder groups, so first responders, our therapeutic courts, our tribal nations, our county officials, our city officials, asking for everybody to sit at the table and talk about solutions as a community. And so that's what we're doing. We have our first official COPE stakeholder group meeting in September. You know, at the very least, it'd be fantastic to have a signature from the city saying, yes, we support this program, but it would be even better to have a representative or more than one representative from the council to participate in that stakeholder group. And so that's just kind of in a nutshell. Be more than happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Questions for Abe? Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
Abe.
I think the city will be more than happy to sign a letter of support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion for that?
Do we need a vote for that?
I think that you should have the council vote to have a representative of the council sign the letter of
Okay.
support.
So everyone's read the letter of support. Do we have a motion to have the city representative sign that?
So moved.
Second.
Well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Thanks, Vicki.
I will bring up that I think that the committee that he was speaking of, that you and Eric did attend a meeting. Is
That-
the
No,
committee?
that's a different
This
one.
is-
Oh,
That's with
it is.
Scott Parker.
Oh,
think it's-
I think it's the same one Gabe's talking about, but we'll bring that
Well,
back
clarification.
next.
We'll clarify that.
Yes,
Okay,
we'll bring that back next meeting.
okay. Okay, time for council member reports. We'll start with Council Member Dorsey, please.
All right. Well, I had a pretty soft week or two, but, well, kind of. We had those city manager interviews, and that was 2 days of grueling interviews. I had a fun thing, breakfast in the park. I think a lot of us went down there. I go there every year, support them best I can. And then I've had a few briefings with Vicki on the 2nd and the 6th, so that's about it for me.
Thank you. Council Member Anisco.
Or 2 full days of city manager interviews. Obviously today, I have a Lions Club meeting tomorrow, and then I have a Housing Coalition meeting on the 14th. And I also attended the Pancakes for the Park. That's it.
All right.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Kranz.
also with the city manager interviews, I did have I took a vacation, and then I got back and had more staff briefings when I got back, so.
Okay, thanks, sir. Besides the briefings and the interviews this week, Councilmember Anisco and I met with Commissioner Kevin Schutte and Todd Parker to discuss participation in the county housing, let me get this right, Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and Councilmember Anisco will be our official rep, and I will be the alternate. I met with Donna Federin with the Timberland Library and just kind of went over the Shelton Library and some issues that she wanted to discuss, and had a good day with her, or a good couple hours with her. And also Chief Moody, who's not here, I attended a meeting, Chief Moody was invited, and I kind of invited myself to a neighborhood meeting around Brewer Park and community Lifeline and some issues around the neighborhood there, and that group will probably meet again here in 2 or 3 weeks. The week coming, I will be attending a luncheon hosted by Peninsula Credit Union, which I believe a couple other council members are attending. Jim Morrell has kind of had a exchange with credit unions in Africa, and 2 representatives from Kenya will be there for lunch, and he invited some of the council members and the mayor to be there, and I appreciate that. So that's my report.
Okay, wonderful.
Deputy Mayor?
In addition to, of course, the city briefings and interviews, I've reached out to the regional transportation, it's actually Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization that I've been appointed to as a representative of the city to clarify their schedule. Seems like we've had some conflicting reports, so I'll make sure that I'm there to represent the city in that. Also had a meeting with Jennifer Barria at the Economic Development Council. And as Mayor Rogers mentioned, I'll be attending the luncheon next week with Peninsula Credit Union. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to Gordon Weeks of the Mason County Journal for asking the newly appointed council members to respond about how things are going here. I think we're all really excited that this is a new chapter for the city and appreciate the opportunity to dialogue with you on that.
Thank you. Councilmember McDowell?
Last week I had my Department of Health Board meeting. The 25th, I was invited to sit in on a Western Washington University feasibility study. They're kind of looking in this area for maybe extending some of their campus down this way. So anyway, it was very interesting, some of the ideas that came up with that meeting. I had my briefings, interviews last week, briefing this week. I had my left board meeting this morning. I have my Lion Club meeting tomorrow, more briefings, and then I'm out of here for 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Schmidt?
Who authorizes that?
You do.
Okay.
Can I go?
In addition to the city manager interviews last week, this week coming up, have the EDC board meeting on Thursday morning at Sierra Pacific Industries, the mill downtown. Should be interesting. MACECOM board meeting next Tuesday, and as well the credit union exchange on Friday the 17th. That is all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we now have time for general public comment. So we allow 3 minutes for public to comment on anything that you'd like to comment on, hopefully regarding the city. So, Don, do we have anything, anybody signed up?
Yes, John Sam.
Spell J-O-H-N or J-O-N? Your name?
J-O-H-N.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
My name's John Sun. I'm a staff accountant for the city of Shelton. I provided each of you with a letter of resignation. It's with great disappointment I'm providing you with this letter of resignation. I've followed the city's policies to the letter, and over the course of the last 2 years, I've been able to learn my job, become proficient at it, and make several process improvements. The process improvements have allocated more time for me to perform the aspects of my job that have never been done before by any of my predecessors. When I first came on board with the city, it was a very steep learning curve that 4 or 5 people before me were unable to master. The environment under Kathy Byerly and Thomas Donnelly was a difficult one to deal with, but they listened and they were fair. I quickly learned my job and was able to take on additional duties of processing all grant billings for the city. I was able to dig into business licensing and B&O taxes and either bring businesses into compliance or recommend revocation of their licenses. These 2 aspects of my job took me 2 years to complete. I cleaned up problems that were never resolved by the accounts receivable accountants in the past, which caused me to go back 8 or 9 years. Late 2017 or early 2018, a new manager was hired for finance, Terry Schnitzer. It was rumored that Craig Gregory was the key person in our hiring process. Terry had no leadership experience, actual or displayed, when working with finance team members. I've tried to make constructive suggestions, ask her about procedural issues, or expressed a problem within the work environment, and she's repeatedly raised her voice to me, scowled at me, publicly admonished me in front of my coworkers.
John,
Yes,
I'm going to ask to not use personal references. If you want to reference the city, that would be fine.
stating facts is not allowed.
No, I want you to state facts. Please don't use personal references. You can say city staff or however you'd like to word it, but please refrain from personal references.
Okay.
I-
You got a copy of my letter then?
I'm fine with you stating facts, just
And the
use
long
city
and
staff.
short of it is that I filed an HR complaint. It was met with a letter of reprimand. And that's direct retaliation. You've got some serious problems within your managerial structure, and I hope you guys can look at qualifications of your managers, mostly your administrators, and hopefully get some things resolved so it's a good work environment again. On one final note, there has been a lot of talk and rumors about basically putting Ryan Wheaton and Nola von Newdegg in a negative light. Nola was an outstanding leader. She was here for a very short period of time. She transformed the finance team, made it a happy work environment, and converted the city from accrual to cash accounting in less than a year. That's a lot of work to do in that amount of time, so I'd be worried of who you're listening to. Thank you.
Thank you, John. What else, Donna?
Next is Tom Davis.
Okay. Evening, Tom.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Now for something completely different and hopefully upbeat. My name is Tom Davis. There's folks who don't know me, and I'm involved with Ponza. Ponza is the administrator of Coyote Village, and as you know, we're attempting to build a 30-unit tiny home village here in Shelton at a site that we're aware of here that's city-owned, and to house veterans here in Mason County who are homeless. The count of homeless veterans, incidentally, I've just learned is up to 50, and that's for the county count of homeless veterans for that particular population. I never doubted that there was going to be not enough veterans to fill the 30 homes, but now it's at least an official count, and it seems to be growing. So there's a need, and I'd like very much to put that particular issue to bed, whether or not there's a need for it. There most definitely is a need for this particular project. I also went ahead and sent you, this is a little bit different cover, but sent you all this information, the information packet. And the information packet is everything that we have on Coyote Village, more or less, with the leases that were negotiated for both Ording and Thurston County. And the reason I had all this inclusive information put in there and requested is because we don't have a conceptual drawing to give you, because it's tied up with our receiving the money. We can't get a conceptual and an engineer's drawing and spend $150,000 or so on until we have control of the property. And I understand that there is legitimate concerns about what this particular project is going to look like, and we'd like nothing better than to give you the documentation so you have a visual on exactly that. But we have something better, and that's what we have a model that's already existing and that's successful that you can visit at any time, and some of you already have. But until we have control of the property, we would not be able, Commerce will not allocate the funds for the project on any level, and that's unfortunate. So we're a little caught between a rock and a hard place here. So it is a bit of a leap of faith. So with that in mind, what I thought would be a good idea and respectful to the council members and your questions is I would bring some people in. I asked Sean McGrady, the executive director of Panza, to ask some of the distinguished members of that particular council, board of directors, to come and speak to you. Now, they can't talk to you about site-specific questions because we haven't got a site, and those questions will be specific to that site. So we can only be very general. In any case, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. Hopefully they won't take up as much time as I did, and I hope it'll be beneficial to everyone here. Thank you very much.
Mike Wardrum.
Hi, Mike. Hi, see you again, Mayor, City Council. My name is Mike Warjohn. I am on the board of Ponza, soon to become Quixote Communities, because we're hoping to build many more. But I'm also the director of Port Blakely Tree Farms, and we manage around about 25,000 acres here around Shelton. And I want to, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but one story that I'd like to share is about 3 years ago, I got a call from the DNR that we'd had smoke reported on our property, and being the guy that's responsible for this area, it was my job to go investigate that. And it was right out on Arcadia on an 80-acre parcel that we own. We have a lot of urban interface. And sure enough, there was a campsite. And this is something that's becoming more and more common. It used to be all the smoke was people picking wild mountain blackberries and smoking cigarettes, and that's not the case anymore. Now we have a lot of residents on our property, and this particular guy was named Tim, and I talked to Tim for a while and told him he needed to put his fire out, and he could camp there, but he just couldn't have a fire, and he was perfectly okay with that. But I asked him, I said, what are you doing here? Why are you here, of all places, and you have services in town, you can, and his answer was, I don't feel safe in sleeping in the city of Shelton, like downtown. Out here, nobody bothers me. I can go catch the bus. I can go to Olympia. I can go into town. But he didn't feel safe sleeping in the town. So fast forward a year, I get involved with Ponza in Quixote Village, and started talking to the residents of Quixote Village. And you ask the residents of the village, what do you like about this new home that you are now occupying in this Quixote Village? Every time you ask that question, the number one answer is, I finally feel safe. Now that I live here, I feel like I can sleep at night. I don't worry about people taking my stuff. I don't worry about being attacked. There's a lot of abuse that happens on the street. And once they get in that house, they feel safe, and then they can begin to address the other things in their life. And so these two sort of pathways for me to get involved in Shelton, I think it's important, and I think our company, Port Blakely, would be happy to really put some skin in the game if we can get the community to work with us on that, because this problem is affecting us, and we don't need any more campfires out there. Believe me, it's getting to be a little bit of an issue. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let the rest of the folks talk about some of the other issues. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike.
Joe Shorn.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of the council. Thank you. My name is Joe Shorin. I'm Vice President for Operations of the Board of Ponza. Ponza is a nonprofit corporation, and it's a very intentional organization. And I just wanted to share a few words with you to convey to you all sort of who, if you are in conversation, and I know that you are, with Ponza about the possibility of a Shelton Veterans Village, a little bit about our organization. We believe that the model that we have at Quixote Village, community-supported permanent housing, is a model that would work very well to serving our homeless veterans. I want to assure you that we are fully committed to the success of a Veterans Village here in Shelton, and but to convey to you that good intentions alone aren't enough, and that our organization is supported by a very hardworking, solid board of directors. I mean, we have a great staff. Our executive director is here. We have a program manager and resident advocate at our existing village and intend to at other villages. But organizationally, Ponza as a nonprofit is governed by a board. And our board, we have a dedicated board of 12 members and it is a working board that is fully committed to the success of this village and of all the other villages that we, the Ording Village that we are currently working on, as well as Camp Quixote, which we're currently operating. Personally, I'm a lawyer in my day job. That may work for me or against me, I don't know. But our board is comprised of a number of professionals, people that bring diverse experiences and background to the work that we do. We think that we have an opportunity to build a very strong partnership with the city, and I just wanted to convey to you that we are fully committed to ensuring that that is successful, and we will, as we move forward, would expect to listen to you to understand fully what the city's needs are to ensure that this undertaking works for everybody. I will say that when I first joined the board of Ponza, one of the things that the board does at Quixote Village is that we, on a monthly basis, we get together with the residents so that we're connected. We have a resident dinner, and it became very quickly apparent to me how transformational the operation of this village has been for those residents. So I hope we can bring that model here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Laura Watson.
Evening, Laura.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am pleased to be able to speak here tonight. I am Laura Watson, and I am actually one of the newest board members of Ponza. And what I can say attracted me to the organization was what a humane and elegant solution it was to build tiny home villages as a response to the persistent problem of homelessness. What really has affected me is the sense of pride, the sense of community that I've been exposed to just through getting to know the Quixote Village residents. And it really translates into what struck me as the beauty of the Quixote Village, the grounds, or from each carefully decorated cottage, the community gardens, the tidiness, the cleanliness, the pride that they bring to the land and to each of their homes. I am very excited about the possibility of joining this board at a time when we're hoping to expand our model to help more people, especially to help people who have done so much for us and have done so much for our country. I'm super proud to be a part of this. Hope we get to partner with you and appreciate the opportunity to make my remarks.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Laura.
Thank you.
Amanda Eichelberger.
Hi.
Evening, Amanda.
Thanks for having us here. I really appreciate it. This is not my arena, so I am the resident advocate at Quixote Village. I provide case management to the residents who live there and get to see firsthand the way that the village can affect folks in our community. We see some really amazing things at the village. Some of our board members have spoken to that, and I could go on all day about it, but I only have 3 minutes, so I really just want to say that as a social worker, I've worked in a lot of different environments with a lot of different models through government entities and nonprofits. And for me, this model is one of the best examples that I've seen to long-term change for people that I work with. So I've really seen that within the village model. I think that comes through the consistency that we can provide for people and the long-term support. My job entails mostly providing navigation of resources for folks and helping them achieve those long-term goals. So once they've moved out of survival mode, then I can step in and help them get to where they want to be, whether that's engaging with treatment or going back to school or finding a primary care provider. I can wear a lot of different hats, but at the end of the day, I'm helping with folks reaching their goals. I'm also a resident of Mason County. So I want to speak as a resident of Shelton who really sees this as a creative solution that's sustainable for our growing county, and I want to really encourage that we take a serious look at this as a solution for our neighbors and community members. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda.
Jeffrey Lippert.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Probably from the way I'm dressed, you can probably guess what I do for a living. I too am a lawyer, along with Mr. Shorn. But I'm also a veteran. I spent 31 years in the United States Army, most of that as a lawyer for the Army. But now I serve in Thurston County in the prosecutor's office. And one of my duties there is I am the prosecutor for the Veterans Court in Thurston County. And I took on that role because being a veteran, you have a unique perspective on veterans. And one of the things that has struck me in that work is that homelessness and criminal problems or issues with the law, sometimes drug use, which is sometimes co-occurring, and mental illness all come together in our therapeutic courts. Mason County, I know, has therapeutic courts, and one of those is I don't think they have a veterans court, but I know they have a mental health court here. I was drawn to the Panza board because of that work I've done with the Veterans Court. One of the things about veterans, we don't have, Coyote Village is not all veterans. There are non-veterans at Coyote Village, but both Warding and here in Shelton, we're focusing on a veteran population. And one thing about veterans is that everyone who, if anybody here is in the military, you can probably attest to this, that everyone who goes in the military has, at least in some time in their past, some training and discipline, some training that gives them a foundation for their lives. And sometimes they lose their way, but that foundation is always there. And I think that, in my experience in Veterans Court, that foundation gets built on by the services that the court provides, by the services that are provided to them by the VA. One of those services, sometimes that services is housing, sometimes it's not. But it is a absolutely critical foundation to get people back on their feet and moving forward again. But the benefit of that discipline is that the folks that you're going to be coming into the village here in Shelton will have that foundation, and they will be at least as they start out, they will have a foundation. Unlike you hear about things going on in Seattle with tiny house villages and whatnot, where they're taking people off the street who are just folks who don't have any of that foundation. I think that you'll find that the target population that we're looking at will quickly turn into a gem of the community. And I hope you'll allow us to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last comment is Tim Ransom.
Good evening. and
Evening,
thank
Tim.
you for allowing us to speak with you tonight. My name is Tim Ransom, and I'm also a member of the Board of Ponza. In fact, I'm the grand old man of the Board of Ponza. I have the great good fortune to be in the right place at the right time in 2007, when the whole process of taking folks off the street, first into a tent camp, but then ultimately into the village, began. And it was an incredible effort and incredible experience. I'm not the Tim that Mike spoke of, but out in his forest. But part of my interest is that there, but for the grace of God, go I or you or any one of us who might have suffered the problems that brought him to that point. I want to share two things with you primarily. One is the pride I have in Quixote Village. That pride it comes about because as I say, I was part of the whole thing, but it also comes about to know that it's part of our community and part of what our community has done to step up to the problems that our most vulnerable neighbors all are dealing with. And Jeff just mentioned a few of those. But that's a pride I also currently share, and I'm very proud of that, with the city of Olympia, who at every turn uses us as an example of how it has stepped forward to deal with the array of issues that are having to do with homelessness. We're just one of a number of solutions, but Quixote Village has proved to be an extremely fortunate or good model, and it's worked well for them. But the real folks who are most proud are the residents themselves. This is they're probably the first home they've had, the first door that they could close for a long time in their lives. They're chronically homeless folks who've been on the streets or in the woods for a long time. And when they come there, and they come there after being checked for background issues of outstanding warrants or sexual predation, that's not allowed. And they've come there with the agreement that what they want to be is clean and sober. And they value that so much, and the community that they create there with the help of folks like Amanda, our staff, to get back on their feet, start growing instead of just reacting and avoiding, which is the way of life on the street. So it's an incredible environment for a set of people that, as I say, are among our most vulnerable. The other piece has to do with Tom started out by saying we can't give you a lot of hard data about what it's going to look like. What we can say is that, like with Quixote Village, when it comes to time to design, that design process involves not only Ponza, but hopefully the residents who will live there and the community. And so we hope to join in a partnership with you all to come up with a design that fits best with your understanding what your community wants to be. And I'm hoping we'll have a chance to begin that with a conversation with you soon, when you can ask us the questions you want. Thank you very much. Sorry for going a little long.
No, thanks, Tim. Okay, thanks everyone for their comments tonight. We'll move on to our next item of business, which is the consent agenda. Are we ready for the reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Donna, could you please read?
Vouchers numbered 18133 through 18112 in the amount of $940,596.10. Vouchers numbered 18225 through 18271 in the amount of $432,063.64.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. First item on the business agenda, Communications Economic Development Officer Andy Barnes is here to present a resolution having to do with the 2019 legislative agenda.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, how are you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing good, yeah. Been a good day, so happy to be here. No, so what you have before you is just the proposed 2019 legislative agenda. Excuse me, these are the items as we met in July 13th and had our budget meeting and legislative priorities discussion. These are just those items that were refined and reflective of that discussion. You'll notice it's divided into two sections. We have a potential capital funding request, then also the general policy issues. Just as a recap, those items were selected just based on project readiness, also their priority and availability for potential matching funds. And then the general policy issues at this point, those are just a continuation of the policies that the city addressed during the 2018 session. So just if there's any other questions or discussion, unless there's that, I just would ask that you guys move this on to the action agenda for next meeting.
I was hoping that the workshop we talked about also something in front of the Oakland Bay Junior High where it's a three-way, they're coming out of school and coming down Leland Wallace, where a kid or adult will step off the curb, one car will stop, the other car just keeps going, and kids are dodging cars there quite often. I sat and watched it, and I was hoping that that would be on here as well, as maybe as a...
Right, I think, and as I recall, maybe you can help provide some clarification. I think that had to do with the broader conversation as far as like traffic signaling. I believe that's what we had, that was part of the discussion. Just
either a signal or a three-way stop, or just something to stop those cars from, I mean, kids are dodging cars there, and I think that is more important than replacing a functional intersection with the light, but it'd be nice to have on there to...
And that's certainly up to the council to decide that. So just again, these items are ones that have been vetted, by city leadership, just saying, hey, these are ready for readiness and also matching funds, and that's something we could definitely look at our competitive funding source, or if that's something you want to put and actually put that as a priority to actually go after, limited funds that are available in those budgets. So it's totally up to you guys as far as what you want to focus on. So if you'd like us to add that, we can definitely do that.
What's the consensus group? Do you want to add that or leave it as
Well, I think it
presented?
kind of falls under the infrastructure improvements on Wallace Nealand, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just making sure that that's either bulleted as a point there and adequately covered. I don't think it needs to be a separate line item necessarily, but just kind of incorporated in
Right,
that
it's-
conversation.
True, and as far as project development, that's certainly something that you could incorporate into that. I mean, that's obviously Craig's wheelhouse, but
Yeah.
if that's part of that project, you could definitely.
Maybe, go ahead.
Well, I do want to commend Commissioner, Councilmember Onisco for looking out into his community and seeing something that we probably just drive by, and I just appreciate his input in taking the time to look at an area that we probably need to address. And so this is how we work together, and that I would support the possibility of looking for funding for this also. So however we need to do it.
Can we just ask staff to make sure that's documented as part of that, probably with Craig, as far as
As far as for the project?
yeah, as far as that
absolutely.
project?
Yep.
Is that,
So again, the purpose of these items, so just to give you an idea of what will happen with this, so this resolution, once this is formalized, this then just authorizes us to move forward with submitting actual individual appropriations requests to members of the 35th Legislative District. And what they do, they then consider which ones, considering the political climate, et cetera, availability of funding in that, then whether they will sponsor those and put those forward for consideration. So that's what this allows us to do, is by formalizing these items, we'll then go through and make those appropriation requests and submit those. They're called LCP forms. And requests that we'll make. So again, if there are items that, like you mentioned, Eric, that could fit into a project, we could certainly incorporate that into that.
you good with that, Councilman? Okay, all right, thanks,
Can I
Andy.
say something?
Yes, you may.
I love the Shelton Civic Center parking lot paving project.
Perfect.
I am going to be the first one to play basketball on that court when it's done.
Well, you have to
I
talk
will.
to Mark, so you get the.
I may not get the ball in the basket, but you know
Move the
what?
cards
I'll
up.
be down there.
Awesome.
So Andy,
Yeah.
thanks. You basically answered my question. I was just more or less getting into the process behind this. And and just ask the council at this point, do you think there's another need for us to talk a little bit more about this before we move? I know he wants to move to action on this, but is there something that you guys want to discuss maybe any further? Because we've only kind of touched it once.
Well, no, for next week. I just meant for night. We don't have to do it tonight. I just meant.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
Both
I just
sides.
didn't know between now and then if there's a need to, like, better formalize your language or in what you're looking for, or any other pieces or parts of this you guys want to review, or,
I'm not hearing much.
all right?
I think if anything should come up, that's something we can bring to staff during briefings, that we have a chance
Cool.
to review it prior to the next
And I will
council
also
meeting.
say, this certainly, and to kind of go further, just to give you an idea on the process and what this helps us do as well, is we'll also be holding, like we did last year, we did a legislative preview with our state delegation. So once this is formalized, we'll obviously set that up and invite you guys to attend that as well, the council. And what that is just it gives us a baseline to start from. And this is certainly not etched in stone and limits us to anything as far as we progress through the session. We certainly can, adapt, whether that be, to certain appropriation requests as they, become relevant, or policy issues as well.
I would
Go
also
ahead,
add that
Deputy
as we move forward in this process, it would be my hope that we could reach out to the other entities and agencies in the area. And I would imagine there are probably some projects that all of us can agree need to rise to the top of priorities. And if we can find that common ground, I would really encourage staff and leadership at the council level to open those conversations, because I can't imagine the stress that our legislators are under to divide these funds, and if we can find a way to move together in a cohesive manner, all the better. So I appreciate opening that conversation and would hope that we could continue to explore that as we move forward.
No, absolutely. I think that gives us a good baseline to do that. So, and also I wanted to bring this up for the policy issues. If there are anything between now and next week, I mean, that you feel that need to be added to that for that are reflective of things that you're concerned about. Again, this is just completely the same as what we did last year, essentially. So if there are adjustments that you'd like to make, I mean, they're intentionally worded very broadly, right? And so just to give you an idea, I mean, the appropriation requests are one thing. Policy issues, kind of how that works, and working with Troy, we kind of respond to those as bills come up, whether those potentially have, negative or positive impacts on the city or policy issues that we're concerned about. We can then respond accordingly. So that's giving an idea of what those are. Just gives us a framework to then respond to those. So.
Okay, so I'll ask for the first reading resolution and
we only have one reading of a resolution, we can certainly take it at the next meeting when you take action on it, final action.
Okay.
Just consent to move it to the action
All
agenda.
right, so is there consent to move it to the action agenda for the 21st? Okay, so we'll move it forward to the 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, next, Community Development, Mark Ziegler is going to talk about our Civic Center rotating art gallery.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Once again, I bring to you the recommendations from the City of Shelton Arts Commission for placement of art in the rotating art gallery. A call for artists was placed with the deadline of July 27th. 4 artists submitted their work to the Arts Commission for a jury on the 31st of July. I'm bringing to you the recommendation of 3 artists, a total of 9 pieces, and I believe you have in your packets photos of those pieces of art for placement, and with your approval to place this on the action agenda. Let's see, for the 21st, right?
Correct.
Of August, we would have the work up by September 4th and on display for 3 months, and then start this process again.
Okay.
This is the neatest, I say this every time, Mark, you bring that artwork to us, but when the displays are getting a little bit smaller, you know, we used to get bigger pictures.
Oh, in your packet?
Anyway,
Yeah.
this is the best idea. It's just the greatest idea for that wall. There are tons of people that just look at that. It's great.
Thank you, I'll pass that on now.
Yep,
We
very
have a
good.
recreation coordinator that is handling the Arts Commission now, and
Oh.
it's not me on a regular basis, so
Let her know.
these are new to me as well, and I appreciate the work that Jordan is putting in. I will
Yes.
pass that on.
Doing a great job.
Your thoughts?
Okay. Thanks, Mark. I assume everyone's good with moving this forward to the next meeting? Okay, thank you. Okay, our first action item is with Mark again on information about the grant for repairs to the William G. Reed Library.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Today I'm bringing you the grant from the Department of Commerce for the direct appropriation for repairs at the William G. Reed Library. As you'll remember, back in May, on May 29th, we approved a contract with Len Williams, Foster Williams Architects, to perform the architectural work for this project. We had a little bit of delay, and we were waiting for some comments back from the local tribes and some other entities before we could get the actual contract back from the Department of Commerce. We have that in your hands today, and I would appreciate that an authorization for the mayor to sign so we can get this back to Commerce and get this project underway in earnest.
Okay. Any public comment? All right. Questions, comments from the council for Mark?
Let's get to work.
Question, any feedback on the actual repair estimate yet?
They're working on it. I received an email from Mr. Williams last week. They had done their preliminary investigation, so they're working on some design work now. I think there were some vacations in their office, and so they should be back this week working on that, and we'll be in contact soon and hopefully bringing forward some more information to you shortly.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on this item?
I move to accept the Department of Commerce grant by authorizing the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the Department of Commerce grant. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And we've gotten rid of Chief Moody's old cars. So I guess we're on to interim city manager Vicki Look for our manager's report.
Well, we've been very busy with looking at applications that came in for the positions that we have open for the assistant city manager, the city clerk, and the HR director. So we're going through those, and probably a little later this week, we will be calling and setting up interviews for toward the end of August. And we will be going through those processes. So that's keeping us pretty busy with the internal operations of the city. So that's what we've been doing. We have a couple of staff on vacation, so that's why Craig's not here right now to talk to us about some of his projects.
Okay. Any questions for Manager Look?
Nope.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you. We're at the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned.
As they do that, it's too early.
At the same time, we would have been
Started.
opening.
Starting last time.
Right.